Erev Tov, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun, and you are watching Israeli News Live. We have very shocking news, written proof, actual written documentation that the Vatican fully intends to build the third temple. And as well, with building the third temple, they will also have world domination, world global power, and will rule from Jerusalem. And I know that sounds very, maybe in some people's eyes it sounds far-fetched, it sounds outlandish, but nonetheless, we have written proof that this is actually going to take place. Now, before I share with you this documentation, I want to take you and just kind of recap some of the things that have happened in Israel where the Vatican is concerned. And first, keep in mind, the Vatican has refused to acknowledge Israel's right of existence as far as a sovereign state and a people there. They still have not come out quite out and fully acknowledged this. They're very heavily involved with the Palestinians in order for the Palestinians to be a state. They've been heavily involved in negotiations for a two-state solution, even hosting at the Vatican a memorial service, planting in their garden there the two olive trees there in Rome by former President Shimon Peres, as well as Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian organization that is there. And even as far back, Shimon Peres, of course, has played a major role in this. Back in 1993 in the Oslo Accords, he was doing secret meetings with the Vatican. And of course, coming out of that in 1994, declarations were signed. A diplomatic relationship was started by Israel and the Vatican. Of course, in Israel's documents, they call them the Holy See. I wouldn't call them the Holy See, period. But nonetheless, let me just share with you some of this document that's published on Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we'll kind of scan through this quickly. It says here, this agreement is made on the basis of the provisions of the fundamental agreement between the State of Israel and the Holy See, which was signed on the 30th of December 1993 and then entered into force on March 10th, 1994. Hereinafter, the fundamental agreement is what it's called. Okay, recalling that the Holy See is the sovereign authority of the Catholic Church, the State of Israel agrees to assure full, effective in Israeli law to legal personality of the Catholic Church itself. Okay, Article 3, the State of Israel agrees to assure full effect in Israeli law in accordance with the provisions of this agreement to the legal personality of the following. These Eastern Catholic Patriarchates, the Greek Mikite Catholic, the Syrian Catholic, the Moronite, the Chaldean, the Armenian Catholic, hereinafter the Eastern Catholic Patriarchates. You know, so they're covering everything that they possibly can. It says the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, EST, the Latin Patriarch Diocese of Jerusalem. The present Diocese of the Eastern Catholic Patriarchates, the new diocese, Holy in Israel, Eastern Catholic or Latin as may exist from time to time. So Israel is giving them broad laws, broad acceptance, and of course, in many of these things here, a lot of laws can change it at time from time. It says also, for the avoidance of doubt, it is stated that the question of assuring full effect in Israel law to the legal personality of any new cross-border diocese is left open. As that's what it said, they leave wide open to make changes even. For the purpose of this agreement, a parish is an integral part of the respective diocese and without affecting its status under the canon law will not acquire a separate legal personality under the Israeli law. A diocese may, subject to the canon law, authorize itself parishes to act on its behalf in such matters and under such terms as it may determine. In this agreement, diocese includes its synonyms or equivalents. The State of Israel in Article 4, Israel agrees to assure full effect in the Israeli law in accordance with the provisions of this agreement to the legal personality of the custody of the Holy Land. What? To the legal personality of the custody of the Holy Land. Now, is this saying that in Article 4 they actually have it? I mean, now, it seems a little vague in there. Notice what this says. The State of Israel agrees to assure full effect in Israeli law in accordance with the provisions of this agreement to the legal personality of the custody of the Holy Land. Now, this isn't what I'm talking about as far as the documentation. No, it's not the written documentation I'm talking about as yet as far as the Third Temple. But that in itself is pretty powerful. This is why you saw, in regards to David's tomb and the site of the Last Supper above the top of that, that the Catholic Church was given all of that. No referendum, no voting, the rabbi was not allowed to make any statement in regarding that. They were just told to shut up. And they brought in special forces to enforce that they could have communion service, not just upstairs in the Last Supper room where the Pope actually had it at, but they even throw the worshipers out of King David's tomb, which I say worshipers, they're praying. That's a place they believe in, praying where people have passed away. I'm not for that, but that's what they believe in. And they throw them out of there and they sit there and do a communion service in there. This is why this article includes several different branches of the Catholic Church. Not just Roman Catholic. They're all up underneath the pontiff. They're all up underneath the Pope of Rome. They throw them out. They do the communion inside of there because they wanted to show the Jews that we own all of it. They took Mount Zion. Anyway, so you can read this for yourself. This is actually on www.mfa.gov.il. This is Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's a very long article. I'll read you another section here in Article 8. For the avoidance of doubt, nothing in this agreement shall be construed as supporting an argument that in any of the legal persons to which the agreement applies had not been a legal person prior to this agreement. If a party makes a claim that such a legal person had not been a legal person in Israeli law prior to this agreement, that party shall bear the burden of proof. See, Article 9. Should a question with regard to the canon law arise in any of the matter before a court or forum other than in a forum of the Catholic Church, it shall be regarded as a question of fact. This is amazing. Amazing without a doubt. But anyway, there's 13 articles, which is kind of interesting, 13 articles. Let me read Article 13 for you. This agreement shall enter into force in the date of the latter notification or ratification by a party, done in 2 original copies in the Hebrew and in English language, both texts being equally authentic. In case of the divergence, the English text shall prevail, except where explicitly provided otherwise in the schedule. Signed in Jerusalem this 10th day of the month of November in the year 1997, which corresponds to the 10th day of the month of Hishvan in the year 5758. And that's kind of interesting that they made sure that those 2 days corresponded. I thought that was kind of interesting. Nonetheless, though, Shimon Peres sold out Israel to the Vatican. And since then, Prime Minister Netanyahu, who for a long time I had a high regard for him because of his stand against Rome and not doing a 2-state solution. But now we see him backpedaling. And he's even gone to Rome and been part of the negotiations of a 2-state solution. And as I showed you in an article on Israeli News Live not too long ago, we took you and showed you all around Jerusalem the building of the superhighways there. And they're building even a checkpoint from Tel Aviv into Jerusalem. A checkpoint. Now I can understand a checkpoint being from the West Bank on the eastern side, coming up. Because you're coming from the West Bank, you have the Palestinian area there. It's the Dead Sea, from the highway from the Dead Sea. You have to go through the checkpoint. Because you're dealing with the West Bank coming into Jerusalem, you need to check the Palestinians. But why would Israel be constructing a checkpoint that is on the main Highway 1 that comes from Ben Gurion Airport, from Tel Aviv, coming west to the east, right up through the mountains there? All of this is Israeli territory, and now they're building a checkpoint that Jews, Israelis, are going to have to go through a checkpoint from Israeli territory to enter into Jerusalem. Why? If they're not planning on internationalizing this city. If they're not planning on taking this city for themselves. Now, I told you I had written documentation. And this comes from the very book I've shared with you before, Morals and Dogma, the Ancient and Accepted Rite. As I said, there's no ISBN number. You'll see on your screen here, page 816. I didn't photograph page 815 because I'm only reading one sentence off there as it begins there, but it says here on page 815, the avowed object of the Templars, that's the Knight of Templars, was to protect the Christians who came to visit the holy places. Now we're already on page 816. You should be able to see this on your screen now. Their secret object was the rebuilding of the Temple of Solomon on the model prophesied by Ezekiel. This rebuilding, formerly predicted by the Judaizing mystics of earlier ages, had become the secret dream of the patriarchs of the Orient. The Temple of Solomon, rebuilt and consecrated to the Catholic worship, would become, in effect, the metropolis of the universe. The East would prevail over the West, and the patriarchs of Constantinople would possess themselves of the papal power. Close quote of the book. Did you hear what they said? I'm just going to highlight it again. I won't post it back on the screen, but I want to highlight this again for you. The avowed object of the Templars, the Knight of Templars, was to protect the Christians who come to visit the holy places. Now, this is one of the things that the Vatican is wanting to do, is they're wanting to bring this about. And Shimon Peres, when he was making the agreement, said that they would bring the United Nations in, they would internationalize Jerusalem so that all nations and all religions can come and worship under protection. That's what the Knights of Templars were to do. The Christians who came to visit the holy places. This secret object was the rebuilding of the